Imagine a nation at a pivotal crossroads where the future of prosperity and happiness hangs in the balance. Two paths lie ahead, one rooted in economic freedom and personal responsibility, and the other in government support and collective security. But before diving into what each choice means, let's clear up a long-standing misconception about capitalism itself, a term that's often misunderstood. Today, we're peeling back the layers, moving past faces and names to look solely at the policies and their impact. Together, we'll explore what happens when civilizations embrace economic freedom or adopt heavy government control, ultimately revealing which path most often leads to prosperity, happiness, and which one often leads to decline and unhappiness.
Understanding the origins and misconception of capitalism. The word capitalism wasn't born as a neutral term. It was coined by Karl Marx in the 19th century, not as a description but as a critique. Marx coined capitalism to portray a system where wealth flows primarily to a small elite, while the rest are left behind. But what we often call capitalism is more accurately a free market system, an economic framework based on individual freedom, voluntary trade, private property, and minimal government interference. It's this freedom that has historically lifted millions out of poverty, fueled innovation, and opened up opportunities across all levels of society. So, as we look at these economic paths, remember that the free market model, often misunderstood as simply benefiting the wealthy, has a track record of empowering individuals and nations across all income categories. Free markets foster growth and upward mobility, two cornerstones of a prosperous society. The power of free markets in creating prosperity. Time and again, history shows us that nations adopting free market principles, low taxes, minimal regulation, and open competition, experience sustained prosperity that reaches across all income levels. In the late 19th century, the United States embraced free market policies. This period, known as the Gilded Age, saw industry flourish as entrepreneurs like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Ford transformed entire sectors. The average worker's wages increased, and millions moved into the expanding middle class. Despite the challenges of inequality, this era set a powerful foundation for upward mobility and long-term prosperity in the US. The post-World War II period brought another chapter of prosperity in America, marked by economic expansion, low unemployment, and rising incomes. This era, defined by home ownership and job security, created a sense of opportunity that was accessible across the economic spectrum. Minimal taxes and limited restrictions allowed businesses to thrive, enabling a robust economy where the American dream felt achievable for millions. Looking to East Asia, countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, and South Korea also adopted free market principles in the late 20th century. Despite limited natural resources, these nations experienced massive economic growth, lifting millions out of poverty and creating a thriving middle class. Their commitment to open markets, private ownership, and minimal government control transformed their economies, proving that even resource-poor countries can flourish when economic freedom is prioritized. The core elements of free market policies. One candidate in this election supports policies that align with these free market principles, emphasizing the following. Low taxes. Lower taxes allow individuals and businesses to keep more of their earnings, which encourages investment, growth, and job creation. Deregulation. Reducing government control gives businesses the flexibility to innovate, take risks, and expand without the burden of excessive oversight. Personal responsibility. By encouraging individuals to work and pursue financial independence, these policies reduce long-term reliance on government support and foster a culture of empowerment and growth. Free market policies have historically boosted prosperity across all income levels, benefiting both the poor and the wealthy. The periods of greatest economic growth and wealth creation in US history align closely with free market principles. These policies don't guarantee complete economic equality, but they do create an environment where upward mobility and opportunity are within reach for millions. Balancing free markets with selective social responsibility. While free markets drive prosperity, history also shows that they can benefit from a balanced approach that includes selective social support for the most vulnerable. These programs, when carefully managed, can provide a safety net without limiting individual freedom or economic growth. For instance, welfare reforms that emphasize work over long-term welfare dependency have been effective at reducing poverty. By providing temporary assistance and job training, these programs empower people to become financially independent rather than dependent. Nations that reformed welfare to encourage employment have seen significant reductions in poverty and higher levels of individual economic mobility. Fiscal responsibility and balanced budgets have also proven critical for long-term stability. By keeping taxes moderate and controlling government spending, these policies create a sustainable economy where both businesses and individuals can thrive without the threat of government debt. This balanced approach to social support allows nations to provide assistance to those in need without stifling economic freedom. The Nordic model, free markets with social programs. The Nordic countries offer a unique blend of free market foundations with targeted social programs. While often held up as examples of government-led economies, Nordic nations achieved their prosperity primarily through free market principles before expanding social programs. Countries like Sweden and Denmark built their economies on private ownership, low corporate taxes, and open trade policies. This economic freedom allowed them to accumulate wealth, which then enabled the funding of social programs. However, in the 1970s, these nations saw stagnation as high taxes and regulation began to slow economic growth. They were forced to implement reforms that reintroduced free market principles, allowing businesses to thrive once again. Today, the Nordic model demonstrates that free market principles can coexist with selective social programs. This balance allows these countries to remain competitive without overburdening the economy. However, this model is only sustainable because it relies on a strong foundation of economic freedom to generate the wealth that supports these programs. The consequences of excessive government intervention. While targeted social programs can improve well-being, history shows that excessive government control often brings economic stagnation and hardship, especially in larger and more diverse nations. In its later years, the Roman Empire increased taxes and expanded social welfare to support a growing military and bureaucracy. This drained the empire's resources, eroding the economic vitality that once made it powerful. As heavy taxation crushed small landowners and reliance on government aid spread, Rome's productivity and innovation declined, leading to collapse. Venezuela provides a more recent example. Once a wealthy nation in Latin America, Venezuela adopted heavy government control in the early 2000s. Industries were nationalized and wealth redistribution became a central policy. Initially, poverty decreased, but the lack of private sector incentives and poor economic management ultimately led to hyperinflation, poverty, and shortages. Venezuela's story is a warning of how excessive government control can strip a nation of its prosperity. In the Soviet Union, complete government control over industry stifled innovation, leading to inefficiency and widespread scarcity. By eliminating economic incentives, the Soviet system led to low productivity and eventual collapse, proving that a lack of economic freedom stifles national growth and individual opportunity. Predicting America's future happiness, based on policy choices. So where might these paths lead America today? Free market approach. History suggests that a free market approach, low taxes, deregulation, and personal freedom, drives job creation, wealth generation, and economic mobility. These policies have consistently supported prosperity across income levels, creating conditions where happiness can thrive as individuals achieve financial independence and stability. Government expansion. Approach. Increased government intervention can initially provide stability, but history shows that heavy reliance on high taxes and regulation often slows economic growth, reduces job creation, and increases dependency. Societies that fall into long-term reliance on government programs frequently face stagnation as individual incentives and opportunities diminish. Final assessment. Civilizations that prioritize economic freedom while offering targeted support to those in need have consistently achieved greater prosperity and stability. By contrast, heavy government control has often led to economic decline and reduced happiness, as seen in the cases of Rome, Venezuela, and the Soviet Union. Today, America faces a choice that will define the nation's future happiness. One candidate, Donald Trump, promotes a free market approach, emphasizing lower taxes, deregulation, and a focus on individual and business freedom. Trump's policies aim to foster economic growth, opportunity, and personal responsibility, creating an environment where financial independence and job creation are prioritized. On the other side, Kamala Harris advocates for a more government-focused approach, with higher taxes on the wealthy to fund expanded social programs, increased regulation, and a commitment to social welfare. Harris's approach seeks to address inequality and provide security for vulnerable populations, but may lead to increased government dependency and a slower rate of economic growth. The choice is up to the American people, and their decision will shape the nation's prosperity and happiness for generations to come. What path will America choose? Only time will reveal the outcome, and the world will be watching to see what the future holds. At this time, let me introduce to you the founder and content creator for this channel, Todd Allyn, for some final words about this documentary and his thoughts about the future happiness of the United States of America.
As we arrive at this critical crossroads, it's clear that America faces a choice with profound implications for its future: happiness, prosperity, and stability. History has shown us the strengths and vulnerabilities of both paths. One, rooted in economic freedom and personal responsibility, empowers individuals and fosters innovation, job security, and financial independence. The other, prioritizing government intervention and collective security, offers stability and support for the vulnerable, aiming to reduce inequality and provide social safety nets. But there are trade-offs. The free market approach, with its emphasis on low taxes, deregulation, and individual opportunity, has historically brought growth and prosperity across income levels, creating conditions where financial freedom and upward mobility are possible. However, this path can also lead to economic inequality, where those already positioned to succeed benefit most from the available opportunities. On the other side, a government-focused approach with increased taxes and expanded social programs seeks to reduce inequality and enhance access to essential resources. While this path can provide immediate relief to vulnerable populations, history also reminds us that heavy reliance on government support may stifle innovation and economic growth over time as individual incentives diminish and dependency grows. In this election, each candidate represents one of these visions. Donald Trump advocates for a free market approach, prioritizing individual freedom, job creation, and lower taxes to encourage a thriving economy. His policies seek to create an environment where economic independence and self-reliance are achievable for those willing to pursue them. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, champions a model of increased government support, focusing on higher taxes for the wealthy, expanded social programs, and greater regulatory measures to provide stability and address systemic inequalities, aiming to create a more equitable society. The choice now rests in the hands of the American people. Each path holds the potential to shape not only the economy, but the fabric of American society, influencing how happiness, opportunity, and security are defined for generations. Will America continue on a path of economic freedom, where opportunity is broad yet responsibility personal? Or will it choose a path of greater government responsibility, where security is offered at the potential cost of economic dynamism? Only time will reveal the outcome, and the world will be watching to see which vision for America's future takes hold. Until next time, stay informed, stay thoughtful, and choose wisely.